Good afternoon and welcome to the Red Room. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Bob Megna, Director of the Budget. I'd like to acknowledge the folks that are with us today from around the state. County Executive of Nassau County, Ed Mangano. County Executive Ulster County, Mike Hine. County Executive of Albany County, Dan McCoy. Mayor of the City of Schenectady, Gary McCarthy. Mayor of the City of Saratoga Springs, Joanne Yepsen. Supervisor of the Town of Colony, Paula Mahan. And City Council Member of the City of Schenectady, Lisa Perazzo. In just a few moments, you'll hear a presentation from Governor Cuomo, followed by comments from Ulster County Executive Mike Hine and Nassau County Executive Ed Mangano. Let me give you guys a little bit of background on what we're going to hear today. This is my fourth budget working with Governor Cuomo. It's gone very quickly. Over the past 3 years, he has worked with the legislature to enact smart spending plans for New York State. These budgets have cut waste, incentivized performance, provided sensible increases for education and Medicaid, invested in stronger infrastructure, and provided millions of dollars in savings for state government. And it has worked. These on-time balanced budgets turned a $10 billion budget deficit into a $2 billion budget surplus in just 36 months. But as the governor always tells me, our work is never finished. Even before he took office, the governor decided to tackle the almost impossible task of lowering property taxes, undoubtedly the most burdensome tax in New York. In 2011, he enacted the first ever property tax cap in New York, which held property taxes to a 2% increase, or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower. This year he is going one step further. The governor is proposing to cut property taxes and put money back into the pockets of hardworking New Yorkers. At the same time, we are asking local governments to live within their means, just like millions of people have over the last few years. And we are incentivizing them to find efficiencies and become leaner and more functionally efficient. If the state government can do it, so can municipal governments. This has become the centerpiece of the governor's 2014-15 budget, and he has spoken with homeowners and local government officials from across the state in crafting this program, including the two county executives sitting here today with me, actually the three county executives, to make it a reality. So without boring you any further, let me introduce the governor of New York State, Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you very much. First to everyone, happy St. Patrick's Day. Bob Megna, we just found out, has a little bit of the Irish in him, so he's especially joyous today, celebrating St. Patrick's Day. I want to thank my colleagues, county executives and the mayors who are here. Front line of government, local government, really does bear the first responsibility. I have tremendous respect for what they do and how they do it, so it's a pleasure to be joined with them. And it's a pleasure to be talking about property tax reform. Every budget, there is certain items that make a lot of news for one reason or another. It's high drama, theater, politics, conflict. So we have issues during this budget season that are getting a lot of news. That can be very different than the issues that are actually the most important issues in the budget. What issue in the budget is actually going to make a significant reform that will make a major difference in the state? And for me, the major issue is property tax reform, certainly on the fiscal side. When you look at the list of structural issues that we said we had to tackle to get the state back on the right course 3 years ago when we came in, and if you had to make a list of the really big problems that the state was facing, that the state had been trying to address for many years and was getting nowhere, you would start with the out-of-control spending and reducing taxes, gridlock, 30 years, 23 budgets late out of the past 30 years, believe it or not, average of 50 days late. State Medicaid program, which was going up, and up. Pension reform, Tier 6, property taxes and passing the cap on property taxes, which had been talked about for decades. Nothing was done. A real economic development program, a teacher evaluation system. I checked the box. It's still a work in progress, but I'm checking the box anyway because I'm an optimist. And then it was the proliferation and expense of local governments. And that's where we are today. We started with the bipartisan George Pataki, Carl McCall Tax Relief Commission, and they recommended reforming property taxes, first of all, to help homeowners who are saddled with impossible property taxes, and second, to incentivize local governments to reduce costs. On the numbers, the property tax is the largest tax in the state by far and away. We collect $50 billion versus $40 billion on the income tax. People tend not to understand that. This is not as much of a problem in New York City. And since much of the media is located in New York City, they never really communicated the issue of property taxes, I think, in the same way. But the people in the state of New York, homeowners in the state of New York, pay the highest property taxes in the United States of America. It's not just high within the state. It's literally the highest in the country. Westchester, highest property taxes in the country in terms of absolute dollars, just what people pay. Westchester County is number one. When you look at by percentage of home value, 13 of the 15 highest tax counties are in upstate New York. Wayne County, Monroe County, number one and number two in terms of highest property taxes by percentage of home value, which is just unbelievable when you think about it. Why are the property taxes so high? Because we have 10,500 local governments. It is as simple and as difficult as that. You have too many levels of government. And even if you control the amount that each level goes up, there are just so many levels that it's just an impossible burden to deal with. Monroe County, 624 local governments, total tax levy $1.6 billion. City, town, village, 18 school districts, 23 fire districts, 102 drainage districts, 15 fire districts, 161 lighting, 14 garbage districts, 62 sewer districts, 98 water districts, total of special districts 551. You can't need this much bureaucracy. Or, to put it the other way, you can't afford this much bureaucracy. And there has to be savings that you can find by getting those bureaucratic entities to cooperate. I think it's that simple. Westchester County, 425, Nassau County, 305. So, property tax reform is an opportunity to address the long-term driver of our high property taxes, which is the cost of the local governments. You want to change the fundamental stance for New York State vis-a-vis taxes, reduce the personal income tax, which we did, reduce the corporate income tax, which we're doing this year, but you want to make a fundamental difference, reform the property taxes, because that's where the money is, right? Follow the money on taxes, it takes you to the property tax. Now, we've been trying to do this for years. As you know, the state has assumed more local costs than at any other time in modern political history. You look at the Medicaid growth that we picked up, $1.2 billion over 5 years. Aid to localities, AIM, $700 million, Tier 6 on pension reform, binding arbitration reform, etc. So the state has gone above and beyond in assuming local costs. But it's still going up. As Attorney General, I changed the law to enable communities to take consolidation into their own hands. That's a picture of me as Attorney General. It's amazing how much younger I look, isn't it? Just a few short years ago.
I feel the pain.
With the legal changes, with all the prodding and all the discussion, how many local governments have consolidated over the past 6 years? 2,220, the answer is 2. Why? Because it's not in their interest to do it. And their natural interest is status quo, don't make profound change, and keep doing what you're doing. This plan, property tax freeze followed by a cut, is our next effort in this mission. If the homeowners want the tax credit, the local government must perform. We've already proven that linking state funding to performance works, and it's an important lesson for me. We tried to get the teacher evaluations accepted, and none of the local districts were accepting the teacher evaluations. We said the next year, if you don't get a teacher evaluation system done, you don't get the 4% increase in state aid. Voila, we went to 98% compliance when it was linked to the funding. Homeowners will be eligible for a property tax cap only, for a property tax credit, only if the local government stays within the cap and they come up with a plan to reduce the net costs 1% a year for the following 3 years. So it's a 5-year plan. It's a 2% credit for the first year, 2% credit for the second year, and then it's save a point, save a point, save a point as a net amount. So all the local governments within a county, the county comes up with a plan, and net in that county, a point per year for 3 years is saved by projected growth. We must begin to have a vehicle for local governments to convene, cooperate, innovate, and to reduce waste and redundancy, and I think this program will provide that opportunity, and will provide these local officials with that opportunity to come together, convene a group. It will be in all of their best interest to get it done, because if they don't, the homeowners in their locality won't get the credit. And if the homeowners don't get the credit, the local officials will hear about it, I'm sure. We're launching a no excuses sign-on campaign to get the plan passed. I understand why local officials would be reticent. It's change, and change is always complicated and often problematic. But we're asking local officials to get past it. This is a structural problem. It's been a structural problem for a long time. If we want to make the kind of progress as a state that we want this state to make, we have to tackle this problem. There's no way of getting around it. And we've ignored it for too long. We all know it's there. We lament it. We point fingers. But we've never tackled it. And it's time to step up and tackle this problem. We're announcing today more than 150 endorsers across the state of this program, and we're talking to more local governments. It is a bold proposal, I understand that, but I think the more people hear about it and the more people understand it and understand the need, the more support it will have. I think not to tackle this problem just kicks the can down the road. We have been kicking this issue, this can down the road for 20 years. And if you ask anyone who knows the finances of the state and the economics of the state, and they will tell you the state has been ducking this issue, much to the detriment of the state. And if we had tackled this issue 10 years ago, this state would be in a fundamentally different place. Because when you talk about why people leave the state, New York City, they may talk about the personal income tax. Upstate, they talk about the property tax, almost exclusively. And that's what has to change. We'll be working on this plan for the next 2 weeks. I hope to get it included in the budget. And the point of the tax freeze is to prompt the tax cut. That is the whole point of the tax freeze or the tax credit plan, is to prompt and provoke the local governments to come together to make the cut. That's the plan. With that, I will turn it over to the esteemed county executive of the County of Nassau. I almost didn't recognize him in a suit. When I'm with the county executive, we're normally in the middle of a snowstorm somewhere on some highway with many large trucks around us with big plows, asking who has the road salt. But I've been working with the county executive through Hurricane Sandy, a lot of really, really difficult situations. Difficult economics, difficult from a human level, and he's really done outstanding work for his county. So it's a pleasure to be with him and welcome him to Albany. County Executive Ed Mangano.
Thank you, Governor. It's great to be with you, and happy St. Patrick's Day. It truly is a pleasure to work with Governor Cuomo. As he said, from Hurricane Sandy to supporting the property tax cap, we've had a great bipartisan working relationship, and that's how government should work for the people. It really, this year, one of the best things that we can do for New York is all across the state. It really is to cut the property taxes. Property taxes affect both families and businesses in Nassau County. They feel the burden of high tax culture in their budgets and in their bills, and they are fed up. We're here today because we're fed up, too, with the property tax. We understand that lower property taxes will make businesses more competitive and will lighten the already heavy tax load that families struggle with each day. And we finally have a governor who's ready to take on the tough tasks that this state's been kicking down the road for years, one of which is outrageously high property taxes. We've created some tax relief under New York State's first ever property tax cap with Governor Cuomo's leadership, and it's enacted in 2011. Now Governor Cuomo has proposed a real property tax freeze for 2 years. And this is why I really enjoy working with this governor. We sat in a room and we explained, in Nassau County, I have frozen property taxes for the last 4 years. We've frozen them. We continue to have a plan to do just that because we're seeing the economic benefits of that. We're growing jobs. We have one of the lowest unemployment rates in the region. It's working for us there. To participate in this plan, we don't want to have to raise real property taxes. We want to get that credit for our residents as we continue to move forward with shared services and efficiencies in the county. And the governor has agreed to move forward, and all counties will now qualify even if you don't raise the real property tax levy. You can actually now, under this plan, achieve a 2% rebate for your residents. And I really think that that's the incentive that will help get other counties that have already recognized this problem and are taking action, like Nassau County, to participate in the governor's plan, which is a great plan. It's one that needs to happen for all the people in the state of New York and certainly my county. You know, simply put, we just have to work together to reduce efficiency, to become more efficient. That's the key, and it can be done with communication and the leadership that the governor's put forth. It makes sense. Let's get together and find ways to work together to cut taxes 1% a year for the next 3 years. And he's providing the money to do that. So there's no real reason why people shouldn't be working together to try to achieve this plan. In Nassau County, we've seen remarkable bipartisanship from the governor on this issue, and we know that he's more than willing to work with us and other local officials from across the state to achieve these results. I encourage all my fellow elected officials in counties, cities, towns, and villages across the state to work with the governor to share services, provide a less expensive and more efficient government for all the people. We all know this is politically tough, and it is. But all important issues are always politically tough. And we have a governor here that's blazed that trail, and we should join with him and make this a reality. But we are here today because we all know that this is the right thing to do for New York's homeowners, and that's really what matters most. We have a partner in the governor's mansion who's dedicated to fiscal responsibility at a time when New York is needed most. Let's make sure he's not alone in this. We're here to help. We're here to be part of the solution. This is a time to work across all aisles to come together for the betterment of our people here in the state of New York and the businesses here so we can continue job growth. Our goal is to make government more fair, and the people of the state of New York deserve this, certainly in our county, and we look forward to working with the governor. Everyone here is united behind cutting property taxes. Now let's get to work with the legislature to pass the governor's plan. Thank you very much. Excuse my cough, fighting a cold. And it's my pleasure to now introduce the county executive from Ulster County, County Executive Hine.
Thank you very much.
He almost moved up. Excuse me.
Thank you, County Executive Mangano, and thank you to Governor Cuomo for that excellent presentation. I think it's important that we all collectively come together for this important conversation. As we all know, property taxes in New York State are simply unsustainable. In Ulster County and all across our state, high property taxes have stifled businesses, hurt our families, and ultimately convinced New Yorkers to leave their home state for more tax-friendly alternatives. Property taxes are literally kicking New Yorkers out of their homes. It is a problem that has persisted for years, and we are here today to stand with the governor and to say to the people of New York that we will not allow property taxes to jeopardize their future any longer. As the governor said, a large part of the reason why we have such high property taxes is that we simply have too much government. It's a simple equation. Lots of government plus overlapping services equals high property taxes. That's why the governor has made right-sizing state government a priority. And the historic property tax cap enacted by Governor Cuomo in 2011 encouraged local leaders to do better at living within our means, and we have. In Ulster County, we've embraced the governor's vision of innovation and change, and as a result, we're a full 1/3 smaller. Taxes are down, and we've instituted the largest reduction in government spending in our history. And through shared services and thoughtful public-private partnerships, we've simultaneously ensured more essential services than ever before. So it's possible. And I'm very excited to hear that, again, that our taxpayers in the communities that have been able to contain taxes will be eligible for a rebate. All over the state, mayors and county executives like myself and County Executive Mangano have worked together to provide effective shared services for our people. That hard work has already helped to stem the rise of property taxes. Now we must continue our progress and undo the damage done in the past instead of only preventing it from getting worse. This year, the governor has offered a tax cut proposal that paves the way for continued cooperation between state and municipalities, and in the end, lowers taxes for all New Yorkers. We commend him for making this a top priority, and his approach is focused on the root of the problem. Because property taxes are both a state and local issue, that's why we followed his lead in Ulster County, working to create a more efficient government that puts less stress on the wallets of our taxpayers. That's also why I am here today, to thank Governor Cuomo for spearheading this issue. I stand shoulder to shoulder with him in his fight to lower property taxes. And as county executive, I know that this focus is right for the people I represent, and as a New Yorker, I know it's critical for the people of our entire state. Thank you.
Thank you. Very well said, as usual, and I'd like to thank County Executive Hine and County Executive Mangano. They both point out an interesting point, which we hadn't discussed, frankly, before. We've been calling the first 2 years a freeze, that it would be a 2% credit from the state, which would compensate for the 2% increase that we assumed the local governments would make, staying within the tax cap. Both County Executive Mangano and County Executive Hine point out they're not raising their taxes 2%. Their taxes are already frozen. In those counties, the 2% credit from the state would actually be a reduction. So it would actually be a credit below zero, a reduction on the taxes. And I asked them both, I can't remember the last time you saw a cut in property taxes. So it really would be something special for those communities. And again, this is common sense. You know, the economy's been tough for a number of years. This is what every family has had to do, every business has had to do. Rethink how you run your household, rethink how you run your business, and get rid of the waste. And when you look at a map and you see 300 overlapping governments in one county, you have to say to yourself, well, I hope those 300 governments are working together to figure out how to save money. I'm sure they're meeting all the time saying, how do we share services? How do we share back office? How do we cooperate on purchasing? That's what this is, because they're not doing it now to the extent they need to be doing it. And that's certainly statewide. So with that, let me turn it over for any questions for myself or any of my colleagues.
Governor, on Friday you mentioned that you'd like to see New York City, some of this get a renter's credit in the budget. I was wondering if you could clarify that for me, if you don't mind, and also how much would the average person be getting, you think, or ideally, what would you like to see?
On the Senate resolution, Zach, now again, remember, both of these resolutions, with all due respect to my colleagues in the legislature, these resolutions are really political documents to make a political point. I always like to tease them afterwards that the numbers don't even add up when you add up the numbers in the resolution, right? It is the Christmas wish list. You just put everything down on the list, and somehow the numbers add up at the end. But when in the Senate resolution, they eliminated what we call a renter's credit and the circuit breaker, and they used the money for other things. When we're talking about a homeowner's tax credit, that's largely outside the city, New York City. The balance was that in New York City, we had a renter's credit and a circuit breaker. If you eliminate those, as the Senate does, there's virtually no tax relief for the city, which I said was a non-starter. In terms of what the average return is, I would ask Bob Megna if he knows off the top of his head.
On the renter's credit, it depended on family size and income, so it could go anywhere from $150 to over $300.
Governor, you said in this room, I believe, that some mandate relief proposals that have been talked about long time were a non-starter. So you finding that this proposal is more or less of a non-starter with legislators and officials than some of those mandate relief proposals? And can you talk about why you're pushing this side for relief as opposed to the other things?
Because, Jimmy, we've been pushing both sides, right? There's two answers to the puzzle. We have 10,500 local governments. How do we reduce the cost? Answer A is the state should give the local governments more money. Okay, you can call that mandate relief, call it whatever you want, but the answer is basically the state should give more money to the local governments. First, that assumes that the state has more money, or that the state has a service that they're now asking the localities to provide, that we're willing to say you no longer have to provide this service, but you still get to keep the money. So it's a difficult arena. Within that, we've done more than ever before. That Medicaid pickup, Jimmy, is just more than has ever been done before. So if the 10,500 governments say, well, tell the state to do more, we have. Now let's look at it from the other end of the equation, which is, are the 10,500 doing everything they can to remove any waste and duplication? And some will say, yeah, we work very cooperatively, but if you talk to them as much as I have, and you go across the state, you will see there has been virtually no organized, consistent convening of jurisdictions going through a rigorous exercise to come up with shared services. We're not even talking about consolidation, just shared services. What purchasing can we cooperate with? What employee relations can we cooperate with? What back office functions can we cooperate and share services? So we've been pushing very hard from one side. We also want to now push on the other side. And the push on the other side, again, Jimmy, it's common sense. It's not like you need divine inspiration to come up with this idea that there are 300 governments in one county. It would be nice if they talked and they cooperated.
To what extent, though, Governor, is that number, the 300, or instead of or if you have the numbers for each government? I know that some of these are special districts that are within a town and that are essentially accounting districts. You know, my property tax bill, I live in a sewer district, I live in a water district, but they're nothing. They are my town. It's just an accounting mechanism.
Well, if it's just an accounting mechanism, then why do I have to pay for the accounting mechanism and the accountant and the audit and the bill? Now,
The town contends I don't. The town says we just do it. The town
well, somebody's paying for it. See, somebody's paying for it. What they're saying to you, Jimmy, sometimes what a town will do is set up other districts as taxing entities, so you have your town tax and then you have this special district tax, which is different. I understand. It's still an administration of an organization, right, and a bureaucracy. There's still a cost to it. And forget just the special districts, there are just a lot of levels of all these districts, you know. You see the slide with the garbage districts and the lighting districts, et cetera. So the savings. To finish the rest of the second part of your first question, is this easy with the legislature? No, this is not easy with the legislature. There are not a lot of things that are easy with the legislature, I might add. As County Executive Mangano said, the tough ones, the real issues, are always difficult, by definition, because if they were easy, they would have been resolved a long time ago. If the property tax cap was easy, it wouldn't take 20 years to pass it. If pension reform was easy, it wouldn't take 7 quarts of blood to pass it. If this was easy, getting local governments to cooperate, this would have been done 20 years ago. And this is running into the apathy of the bureaucracy. And these are all local elected officials, and they're all saying, why are you making me go through this exercise? And that's the pushback they're getting. I have no doubt about it.
But really, the point here for you to ensure that, the Assembly's plan, for example, says, okay, we'll do the tax freeze, we'll just cover the cost. There's no back end, like you're saying, forcing the local governments to consolidate or to cut the tax levy. Is that the key issue here for you in any plan? Something that ensures the local governments are going to have to share services in order for residents to get these tax breaks?
Joe, the point is to have the local governments go through the point is first to recognize the problem, okay? We have too many governments, we really do. Point two, to get them to start to work together in a way they haven't done thus far. Where we do meet, we do coordinate. I know. Let's do it on a more rigorous basis, more creative, more aggressive, and to identify actual savings so the tax comes down. I don't want to freeze taxes for 2 years, just to freeze taxes for 2 years, and then in year 3, the person falls off a cliff, because look at what you would have done. We cover the 2% increase in year 1. We cover the 2% increase in year 2. That's now a 4% increase. In year 3, it's another 2. That's 6. And all of a sudden, the person gets handed a 6% increase, in essence, once the freeze is over. That would be terrible. That would be terrible. So it's not about the freeze. It's the freeze to incentivize the cut. It's the freeze to set up the cut. In the case of these 2 counties, it's going to be a cut of 2 to anticipate the cut from the cooperation.
If the local government has already taken steps to cut costs through sharing services or consolidation, should that credit them towards this tax cut or this freeze?
Conceptually, my point is we have to do more. If you want to say, well, we've already brought our taxes down and we don't have a problem with our property taxes because we did everything we need to do, then fine. But I don't think that's what they're saying. They're saying we did a little bit, You have to lose 20 pounds. Well, I already lost 5. All right, there's another 15 to go. Well, I think I did 5. Yeah, I think you need to do 15, So it depends on your point of view. If a locality says, I did what I have to do, we did the streamlining, our property taxes are no problem. Fine. Perfect body weight. Great.
For the local elected officials here, do you have a specific example of a special taxing district within your area, within your jurisdiction, that you would like to see done away with because it's costing property taxpayers so much money? Or is there one that you've already dealt with?
That's a bad question. Don't do that to done away with. It sounds like you want to hurt someone or some entity.
But to follow the question, are there other districts that are actually, that you've done away with that we've seen savings from?
Where can you find savings?
We have districts, we have water districts, and we have a water district and we have a sewer district, and either way you have to cover the costs for those town services. But we have tasked each of those departments with making major cuts and reductions, which they have done. And they continue to do that, and we continue to streamline in that area. And the goal right now, because of the fact that we have cut back so much, you know, we can't go backwards and just you know, have the costs just keep rising. The real work now is on maintenance, maintaining, and we have found a lot of ways that we could cut the costs and save the taxpayers money. But it's an ongoing type of assignment. As the governor says, it's not something you can do for a little while and then okay, now we're at that ideal weight, so to speak, so we can relax. You know, it's a way of life. It's a whole change in the paradigm of operating government, and to me, it has to be ongoing. And as the governor said, this is not an easy topic for any official, but on the same token, as a local leader, and I'm sure others hear it, the main comment that we get from our residents is, you know, please keep our property taxes down, because we want to stay living in the town. So please do whatever you have to do to keep our property taxes down. That's their main concern.
But would eliminating the district per se, that would
If you eliminate, I mean, logically, you have to pay for the water system, the sewer system. You have to be able to collect a fee some way for the usage, which goes back into their budget, their operating budget. So one way or another, you have to provide that service, and that service is costly. So whether you do it through your own property tax or you do it through the district fee, it's the same thing. I mean, they have to be able to pay for, residents have to be able to pay for that service. So the real issue is, how do you maintain that service in the most efficient manner and in a cost-effective way? And that's the ongoing you know, work that takes place.
I think it's also important to highlight here that there's real opportunity. People think that somehow it's all been maxed out, okay? I remember when I came into office, we entered into shared service initiatives with a whole host of towns from a highway perspective, saved a significant amount of money. There's public-private partnerships on this pathway as well. We saved $23.7 million in reduction in government spending in Ulster County, the largest in our history. So there's real opportunity to be able to move through this process. It's not easy. It's contentious. It's all of those things. But it's never been more important.
I want to just...
Is there a special taxing district, though, within Ulster County?
See, I think what the governor has said here is critically important. This is an opportunity for a conversation. This is when you bring together all of the municipal leaders in your community and start to talk about the best ways to be able to maximize this process. In our case, we're talking about a 2% reduction in taxes for the people of Ulster County. That's fantastic. By the way, I was very excited not to be on that list in the beginning.
Can I get a little bit to talk about the unfunded mandates? Have they gone down the last couple of years? A lot of you.
Yeah, Pat, can you hold that one second? County Executive just
I
wanted to
was
follow.
going to say, you know, if the service needs to be achieved, for instance, if you're plowing roads, if the county took off over all the roads for the towns, the cities, the villages, you'd need more people. So it's not necessarily the patch that they wear on their arm, if it's a county, town, city, village patch, if that service needs to be performed. The key is, under the governor's plan, is there's ways to work together with those 5 entities to reduce costs and become more efficient and save real property tax dollars, such as buying the salt collectively, or buying the sand, or the brine, or the equipment, or the maintenance, or the administration. For instance, we have a computer system that tells us where all our trucks are. Maybe that, whether the plow is up and down, or whether the sand is on or off. Maybe that technology can be shared. There's a real opportunity to save dollars in the performance of the services that our residents clearly want. Many of our residents, a majority of them, want certain services and identify with their village, and they don't necessarily want to be rid of it. They want, though, to have real property tax relief. This plan, the governor's plan, gives you an opportunity to move the discussion from who's going to do what to how are we going to save money and put more money back in our taxpayers' pockets. And that's what this achieves.
Yeah.
Doesn't the Taylor law make a difference as well? Because we keep hearing that the unions have a leg up in the bargaining process because of the Taylor law, Triborough. And government is a people's business, and you're talking a large percentage is salary benefits.
Yeah, Rick, they've been talking about the Taylor law for 20 years. Some people say it gives the unions a leg up. The unions say it was in exchange for them not being able to strike. They can't strike, and the local government can't take their steps away. But just to get back to echo what the county executive said, Nick, when you pose the question, well, what entity should go away? That's not the question we're posing, right? We're not saying eliminate entities. It's shared services, it's cooperation. You have silos and fiefdoms within these governments, and each one is a self-contained silo, and they're doing everything they have to do within that silo. And we're saying, is there a cross-cut, or shouldn't there be a cross-cut to find functional efficiencies and economies of scale? Do we all have to do our own purchasing? We're buying 400 vehicles a year. Instead of everyone buying and pricing and negotiating their own vehicles, why don't we buy them collectively and we'll get a better cost because our scale is going to go up? County executives point about snow plowing. Why don't we figure out how we can do it? Do you really need to buy your own plows and man your own plows? It's close enough to this jurisdiction. Maybe they can take over that responsibility. It doesn't happen because they're different entities. I'm in my own town. I'm my own village. I'm the head of the lighting district. And each one is self-contained. I understand that. That's the culture of government. That's the culture that we have developed. How do you change the culture and inject an efficiency and an economy of scale and a cooperation ethic that doesn't now exist? And we've tried all sorts of ways for 6 years. I said, I'll give you technical assistance. I'll give you an award. You get a big plaque, the most cooperative. I passed a law, make it very easy for you to do it. None of it worked. Why? Because that's the culture that you're dealing with. So now we're saying, how about this? The people in your town can get money back in their pocket if you perform. Inverse is, if you don't perform, they're not going to get the money back in their pocket. And that may be a political issue you want to think about before you say no cavalierly. That's what this is about. But make no mistake, it is a culture change, and change is very, very hard. Now, especially in government. In the private sector, it happens. Why? Because you're forced. Jesse asked the question. New York Times, the bottom line starts to suffer. Shareholders start to yell. New York Times fires people. Boop. That's what it does. Problem fixed. They also do consolidation, shared services, etc. Government doesn't have that sanction. Numbers don't work. Government says, raise taxes, raise taxes, raise taxes. Until when? Until you have the highest property taxes in the United States of America. And what do you keep doing? Raise them some more. Raise them some more. People are leaving. Raise them some more. No. You have to try a different plan. And the different plan is to attack the culture, challenge the culture, and find economies of scale, because it betrays common sense to say these 300 entities can't be any more efficient than they are. By the way, I just did this in our own government. And you have to see the resistance of every agency. I need my own purchasing unit. Why? Well, because I need to be able to buy things when I need them. I need them to be able to buy them, and I buy special things. You don't really need your own purchasing unit. It's more convenient. Gives you more control, but you don't really need your own purchasing unit. We're going to have a centralized purchasing unit. But very disruptive, very hard to change.
Last question. Can any of the county executives, you talk about high property taxes, a lot of times say it's unfunded state mandates. Have the unfunded state mandates gotten better? Or?
They have. No, don't forget what we're talking about here. This has happened over a long period of time. But the governor's Medicaid relief plan has been significant for all of the counties across all of New York State. Okay? We have collectively saved an enormous amount of money. Now, do we have more work to do? No question about it. And that's on every front. Because really, it always comes back to the same thing. We're talking about putting money back in people's pocket. We're talking about not having the highest property taxes in the entire nation. And in the private sector, by the way, if nobody's trying to be more like you, there's a problem. And so nobody I know in the entire United States of America is trying to get to the 10,500 municipality mark.
Would you accept any budget without this? This is your time of maximum trust. If they don't accept your plan as is,
Well, it goes back to, I can't remember if it was, I think it was Joe's point. The assemblies come back as just do the tax freeze, but don't make them cut. That makes no sense to me, because that's not the point. The point is not to provide a 2-year temporary freeze. It's to incentivize the cut. So that's the point of the cut to me, the point of the freeze. It's a necessity for this to work. It doesn't work without it. It makes no sense to me to freeze taxes for 2 years if you're not going to cut them.
Governor, on a different topic here, did you accept the nomination of the Independence Party? You took it in 2010. I think you actually did it before you were together about a nomination. Just people talking about this.
You know, it's a little early for politics, Jimmy. In political season, we'll talk about that.
Do you agree with Jay Jacobs, who was the state party chairman for a while, that the Independence Party essentially exists just to benefit itself and benefit the people who run it?
I don't, I don't consider myself an expert on Nassau County politics.
I'll jump in on Nassau. You know, look, this is such a joke. If you look at this, first of all, it's just a sour grapes. The guy has lost election after election. He's lost the county executive. He's lost the comptroller. He's lost the seats in the legislature each year, and now he's lost the city of Glen Cove, which elected an independent candidate. When Jay Jacobs was getting the independent nominations for his candidates, it was a great party. And now because he's lost some in the way he's conducted himself politically at the Independence Party, has balked at the way that he controls certain candidates, now he's attacked the party, which I think is inherently wrong when you have a major party as the only complainant against a minor party. There's something wrong with that that should be looked at the get-go. But this is nothing more than petty politics at an absurd level from a failed leader that likes to bully people. And that's what he likes to do, is bully people. He's known for the slap lawsuit in his own personal affairs, and he bullies people politically. And now he's trying to bully a party, and because he gets some favorable press in a local media, it gets sensationalized. But the fact of the matter is, if you step back from this situation, does anybody think a major party, can you imagine if the Republican Party called for the end of the Conservative Party, or the Republican Party calls for the end of the Independence Party? Everybody would be up in arms, and they should be, because the major parties should not be influencing the minor parties. And that's what makes our system free for all those that are seeking endorsements to go and meet with these parties and see whether they adopt or don't adopt the platform.
Do you anticipate endorsing Governor Cuomo? You talked about your relationship.
Well, as a wise man once said, there's a time for the political season, and it's really not now.
I said that too.
On the issue of charter schools, and kind of to repeat Mike's question a little bit, would you accept a budget that doesn't offer the protections that you outlined last week on charter schools?
You know, well, I accept. We've been at this long enough together. I don't negotiate the budget in public, but suffice it to say that I believe charter schools need to be protected. Their fear, writ large, is if you have a city that says, I don't want to have any more charter schools, that a city could basically stop the creation of more charter schools by limiting the location and the funding. So I think that would be problematic. I want to make sure the charter school movement can continue, can grow, and has that support in every city in the state. That can be done in the budget, or it can be done as a normal bill.
Critics have said that this is gubernatorial control of New York City schools. What did you make of that criticism?
It's kind of silly, I think.
Do you think Mayor Bloomberg's, the ones that he approved, the 3 charter schools he approved, and do you believe the state needs to protect those? Mayor Blasio recently moved to block their expansion. Does the state need to step in here in your opinion?
I don't know, Zach, on the specifics of co-locations and on the people who Nick is talking to. I'm not getting into specifics of this school should be here, this school shouldn't be here. I don't know. I know system-wide, we can't be in a position where a city can say, there will be no more charter schools, either by saying it that way, there will be no more charter schools, or saying, I'm not going to locate any charter schools, and I'm not going to provide any funding for location for charter schools, right, which would be just a specific way of getting to the same end. So that, I want to make sure that the system has that protection. But the specifics, I would leave up to localities. I don't know on the specific.
Well, the city council speaker over the weekend sent a attack tweet, I guess is the best way.
Attack tweet, is that a new kind of tweet, special tweet? Does it come over a different device? I want to send an attack tweet. Send an attack tweet to Ken Lovett right now, as a matter of fact. It comes across in red or something like that with a little dagger.
And if not, what's your reaction to what she wrote?
I have not spoken to her about it, no.
Governor, the Assembly and Senate are convening their joint budget committees talking about transparency and openness and working in a bipartisan way. You've said in the past the budget used to be a flashpoint for dysfunction. Now it's a transparent process. If it's a transparent process, why is it still negotiated behind closed doors?
Well, just because something is done behind closed doors doesn't mean the process isn't transparent, right? You can't do everything in public view always and have frank, candid, meaningful conversations. I don't know if you were here when they used to have the leaders' meetings in the public in this room and they were televised. I mean, it was a silly theater that accomplished virtually nothing, with leaders reading a scripted statement and then everybody looking at everyone, you know. So that didn't work. This is a transparent process. You know my position, you know the Senate's position, you know the Assembly's position, you know their resolutions, you know where we agree, you know where we disagree. We've been talking all through this press conference about areas of disagreement. You know what my position is, you know what their position is. That's all called transparency. We have a meeting, they walk out, you put a microphone in their face. What did he say? What did she say? What did you say? That's transparency. I was much more transparent than it's ever been. That I can tell you.
Want to follow up what you were talking about politics?
No, I wasn't talking about politics. Actually, I was talking about not talking about politics.
There's a difference.
Lieutenant Governor Duffy, do you anticipate having him on the ticket in November?
That would be one of those political questions that I'm not here to talk about.
Governor, on the DREAM Act, you said you would sign it if it passes, but is it a priority for you?
Yes.
Going to push it for it like you put it for same-sex marriage?
Yes, been multiple conversations.
If there's an expanded bill for medical marijuana,
Depends on what the bill is.
Expanding more than what you thought?
Depends how, Pat, how, why, what, where, what conditions, what controls.
Is it something you're open to discussing as part of the budget process?
I'm open to discussing repainting the building. You know, I'll discuss anything.
There is a bill in the legislature. Last one, medicinal marijuana, it's the one that seems to be gaining steam. Just on that one, the Gottfried's,
I haven't seen it.
Governor, to clarify an earlier question, do you think major party candidates should shun independent party nominations?
This is a political question, and we'll discuss it politically vis-à-vis me. And in general, I think people make their own decisions. Okay, guys, thank you very much.